Haji.
Thank you, Dr. Zul. If you look at the framework, one of the requirements, one of the provisions that the bank are required to provide so-called adequate trainings to enable the key stakeholders of the IFIs are adequately knowledgeable about Shariah. We do not specify in minute details actually what kind of training that are supposed to do. But for information, when we currently we are in the course of designing the template for our supervisors to inspect the IFIs, to measure on how on the level of so-called Sharia, on the so-called observance or compliance to the SJF. So one of the aspects that would be given so-called there would be one of the called component of template would be on the training part, because if, for example, if the bank does not provide adequate training to their staff in terms of how they look at how Sharia works or Sharia banking works, that can be a prospective findings on the part of the bank. It means that they are not doing enough in terms of training the staff in understanding Islamic banking. As mentioned by Dr. Aznan just now, the frontline staff must be knowledgeable enough to demonstrate that there are differences between Islamic banking and conventional banking, and not saying that it's more or less the same, because these are two different contracts altogether. But the level of understanding would differ from bank to bank. In our engagement with so-called some of the foreign banks, for example, they place very strong emphasis on training the staff in terms of how Islamic banking works. Even the non-Muslim, for that matter, sometimes they understand more on the Sharia issues pertaining to Islamic banking than the Muslim staff itself. So it differs from bank to bank. But this is where the supervisors, when they assess the level of understanding of the staff on Islamic banking on the bank-to-bank basis, they will be able to make the assessment to see which bank are strong in those training, so-called training, so-called programs, and those banks who are not really serious in doing that. It can be measured, and even when you talk to the staff of the bank, you would know that they have gone through a particular so-called program or training. There was one in our engagement with in one of the bank. They have made it a point that any staff who are to market or to sell Islamic banking product, they must attend they must pass a particular program before they are allowed to go to the fields to sell Islamic banking products, so that it will not create any so-called mentioning of this product. Islamic banking is all the same, but they must pass that program. I think it's online, e-learning and so on. They must pass that program, then only they will be allowed to go to the fields. So I'm quite amazed on some of the training programs by the banks in terms of educating their staff, and these are the things that we shared with other banks when we engage them on their preparation towards observing Sharia governance framework. Thank you.
Dr. Aznan, do you have anything to add? Okay, he's taking a rest. Yes, can you please come to the front, use the microphone.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Lukman from UIA. Yeah, so my question is to the first speaker. Coupled with the question that was asked, the one that you finished answering now by my doctor, then you said there is a bank, you are citing an example in your speech. So there is a bank that the 5 years, the Sharia advisor did not meet the board of directors. So how do we resolve this ethical issue in Islamic banking? Because what you are saying also is the same, what I'm saying now, it links to what the doctor asked at the first time, that the frontliners, they don't know anything. And actually, almost, if you come in contact with them, they don't know really. what is going on in the, if you ask what is this product, you only know one product. If you continue explaining one product for you don't know any other product also. So how do we resolve this ethical issue within not meeting the Sharia advisor and then the directors of the Islamic banking? Because you cited in your example, if you don't understand me, in your example you cited one example. You said there is a bank that the Sharia advisor did not meet with the directors for 5 years. You cited an example. Okay, I said this ethical issue, because this is an ethical issue, it's not issue of procedure again. There are procedure. The IOP already laid down the procedure, and then the FISB also laid down procedure. But this ethical issue, how do we resolve it in Islamic banking?
Okay, the board of directors, these are ethical issues. How do you resolve these ethical issues?
Thank you, brother. The example that I have given to you earlier on, actually, you're talking about the pre-implementation of the SGF. This is what we found out when we meet the banks, for example, when we ask them, have you met the directors? They said, no. Why you aren't meeting directors? We're not even invited. Why not invited? So we keep asking the bank, and because they come with their fellow bankers, with the bankers. So we ask the banks, why you are not, why you don't have this sort of engagement? Of course, they will try to give some excuses. But anyway, if you look at the framework itself, we have mentioned that there must be regular engagements between the board and the Shariah committees, and we do not state how the engagement, what form of that engagement. In some banks, they make it a point that in some banks the minimum engagement, some engagement are what they do is that they appoint the Shariah committee members as a board member. That's one engagement. In some banks, they make the chairman of the so-called Shariah committee to be a permanent invitee in their board meetings. That's an engagement. And in some banks, they make it a point that whenever they have board meetings, the chairman or even the committee itself will share or will share with the board members what are the views, what are the findings, what are the issues that have been discussed in their meetings. So that these are so-called interactions that we expect from the IFIs. So this is some of the minimum expectations that we expect from the banks. So that at least the board will know actually who are actually the Shariah members. Sometimes the Shariah board doesn't even know who are the Shariah members. So, and we are view that there must be some sort of da'wah between the Shariah committee members and the board members. They are supposed to, when they have the interaction or engage with the board, they should play their role of so-called educating in an informal way actually on what is Islamic banking, because I believe not all board members understand fully what is Sharia banking or what is Islamic banking. So this is one of those so-called areas or opportunities where the SC can play their role in terms of educating or sharing their knowledge with the Sharia board members. That's number one. Secondly, we are in the process of formulating. I mentioned, I think I'm not sure whether I have shared with you. We are developing a program to educate the Sharia committee members. Initially, we have in Negara, we have a program we call FIDE, Financial Institution Directors Education Program, where we educate the directors of the financial institutions, meaning they are required, they are mandatory for them to attend this FIDE courses, and they must pass these courses before they will be considered to be appointed or to be renewed in terms of the appointment. So one of the so-called modules in the so-called FIDE is on Islamic finance, where we invited key so-called experts in industry to share with the members about Islamic finance. We have already about 2 or 3 slots where we have so-called developed, where the board members are briefed on Islamic finance, and the feedback that we got from this program are very positive, and they like to have more of this so-called engagements or education. So that's for the board members, and this will be something continuously being carried out. But on the part of the Shariah committee members, we are thinking of developing a program where they are required to attend this particular program. They must pass the program. Let's say it's a 2-year so-called program, and if if after they have gone through the program, then they will be considered for a deployment later, for deployment, to ensure that they are serious in enhancing the understanding on finance issues, financial issues, and or maybe some contemporary issues on Sharia, by the so-called because we have the so-called experts, and because of the so-called the newbies, for example, they want to know actually what's the issues being carried out, what is being discussed in the international level on Sharia matters. These are some of those things that we are thinking on how to enhance, and of course to address the issue of ethical, as raised by our brother just now. Thank you.
Thank you. Try to a little bit, sorry. I think one Haji Rustam has mentioned is the extreme situation, I believe. 5 years not meeting the BOD, or not a single BOD come to the meeting of the Shariah. I think 5 years is an extreme position, I believe. Sheikh Rustam tried to put it to attract your attention, maybe put the most extreme one, maybe. I myself have never experienced kind of thing. That one thing. Second thing we have to understand, because when we meet BOD, it doesn't mean that we bring everybody of the Shariah committee. Sometimes we elect, or sometimes, most of the time, the chairman will represent the Shariah committee most of the time, or otherwise he's not a chairman anymore. That one thing. So maybe the one that you talk is about the ordinary members of SC, not the chairman. Chairman will have a regular meeting, I believe. That's the second thing. Third thing, not meeting the BOD doesn't mean that the Sharia compliance is not well observed. We have to understand, in all banks, we have one we call Sharia department. Most of the time, maybe, in some circumstances, instead of the Sharia committee that's come to the BOD to explain, any decision made at the Sharia advisory level, the Sharia committee level, will be disseminated and will be explained further in the BOD by department. Islamic department, the head of department, the head of compliance and so forth, he will go and explain. So the issue of the BOD would not hear at all about Sharia matters normally does not arise. Either the chairman or elected member to go and present, or sometimes in some circumstances the chairman of BOD or member of BOD will come and come to the meeting of the Sharia committee. Or otherwise, the Sharia department will take the role of explaining, disseminating, and telling the BOD and the rest of senior management on what happening in the Sharia advisory meeting, for that matter. So that happened. The new guidelines coming to improve that situation. Among others, regular engagement between the BOD and Sharia committee. We have to understand also, the engagement can means two things. We may want to have dissemination of knowledge. It cannot happen in one or two meetings, 5-minute meetings. It's more about building a relation for further understanding one another. For someone to come to the Sharia committee meeting to listen, it takes time for that one thing. Second thing also, in Sharia committee meeting, we are not going to repeat a basic thing. That's the thing also. So when